There is substantial grade variability within these veins. You can drill a hole and hit very little gold, and then change directions a couple 100 feet and drill another hole and see grade within these deposits.
Welcome to Proven and Probable, where we deliver mining insights and bullion sales in the form of physical delivery, offshore depositories, and private blockchain distributed ledger technology.
Joining us for a conversation is the CEO of Millrock Resources, Gregory Beischer, along with Gabriel Graf, who works as a consultant for Millrock Resources. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Maurice. Great to hear you again.
Glad to have you both on the program today to get shareholders up to date on the latest developments on the 64 North project, which to date has not produced the results we've been hoping for. But before shareholders get too discouraged, there's a coordinating conjunction that needs to be considered in the narrative, and that is the word however. Mr. Beischer, take us to Alaska and reintroduce us to the 64 North project.
Sure thing, Maurice. I'm here today in Fairbanks in the central part of our state. I live in Anchorage, but up here looking at two of our projects right near Fairbanks. But also 64 North is a pretty short trip just down the highway and probably a 2-hour drive here from Fairbanks. And I'll move on to the next slide. And here, zooming in to the central part of the state, you'll see Fairbanks again, the Goodpaster district in which 64 North is situated, also the Goodpaster mining district. You can see annotated on this slide, and it's part of an overall very large belt of rocks that has a prolific amount of gold. Stretching from the Yukon Territory across the Canada-U.S. border, and Alaska has a big portion of this Tintina district. And you've been following Millrock for a while, so you know that about 18 months ago, we staked a very large tract of state of Alaska mining claims, which are shown here in blue. Surrounding the Northern Star Pogo mine property. And the yellow stars indicate places where we know gold occurs at surface. And in particular, we've been working mostly this past year on the West Pogo focus area, which is really, as the name implies, just to the west of the Pogo mine. Now, zoomed in further, Millrock's claims are shown in the pale blue color. This line here represents the claim boundary between Northern Star Resources and their Pogo mine and Millrock's claim block. And these orange shapes are the ore bodies at Pogo, the gold ore bodies projected through to surface. So contained within those shapes is approximately 10 million ounces of gold, of which roughly 4 million has so far been mined. Now, the reason I've invited Gabe to sit in today is because Gabe is previously the exploration superintendent for the Pogo mine. And so he's very, very familiar with the geology and metallurgy of Pogo. And additionally, it was his work that resulted in the discovery of the Goodpaster deposit here. He's the geologist who drilled the discovery hole, which produced some very good grade, and which we now understand Northern Star will be delineating that deposit with a $21 million delineation drilling program. So that's really just a short distance from our claim boundary, just over a kilometer away from the boundary. And as I move on to the next slide, now you can see some of the nice thicknesses and grade that was intersected by Gabe and his crew when he was with Northern Star. And in particular, I think this discovery holes was the one that measures 4 meters in width and contained 67 grams of gold per ton. Well, maybe that wasn't the very first hole that you drilled, Gabe, but it was the one that sure caught everyone's attention when you made a presentation at the Alaska Miners Association meeting a few years back. And one thing Gabe will comment on in a little bit, Maurice, is that discovery. He'll explain how it was made and show some of the grade variability that we get. So let me show you what we've done so far. As you'll recall, we started drilling in March on this hole here, number 1, but we had no sooner completed and started hole 2 when the pandemic broke out and everything went on pause. And it was June before we could get back. And since then, we've drilled this hole. Hole number 4 here was drilled deep, and then hole 5 and hole 6, and then finally hole 7. And I should say that this has been a joint effort between Millrock and Resolution Minerals, ASX company, RML. RML is earning their way into our project by funding exploration. And so their technical team is working with Millrock's, including Gabe, whose experience right next door has been very helpful to Millrock. So you saw our last press release regarding hole 7. This is a view of the general area. You can see the terrain is not too bad, and we've built roads that allow year-round access. And moving on to the next slide, hole 7 hit just what we were looking for. A 7-meter thick quartz vein, or zone of veining, with pyrite, arsenopyrite, and a little bit of pyrrhotite. And these are the earmarks of what Gabe sees in the deposits next door, Pogo, Lisa Zone, and the Goodpaster deposit. But as it turns out, there wasn't much gold in this quartz vein, or at least at this particular location. So a disappointment. But I think it's a case of never stop trying here. And Gabe is going to show us an example of why that is, that we've drilled into a vein which appears much like the Goodpaster deposit or Pogo. And it's certainly possible that we've intersected the right vein. We just are on the edge of it where there's not high gold grade yet, or we just happen to pierce a spot on the plane of the vein that didn't have much gold. But certainly there's good reasons to drill more holes to see if the grade changes. And I'm going to pass it over to Gabe now for slide 9 to just show a couple of examples of how that occurs.
Yeah, so on slide 9 here, we're looking at the ASX announcement from September 16, 2019, that Northern Star put out with the discovery of the Goodpaster deposit. And as Greg was saying, just wanted to point it out, there is substantial grade variability within these veins. You can drill a hole and hit very little gold, and then change directions a couple hundred feet, and drill another hole and see grade within these deposits. So I have 2 holes highlighted here on this slide in black. 18-042 was a hole that Northern Star would have drilled, and you can see that hole is a minus 85 was the dip at an azimuth of 180 degrees. And if you look at the assay results from 309.7 to 312.6, they hit 3 meters of 0.4 grams per ton. So not very exciting, but a good thickness vein again, 3 meters. That's a good thickness vein. They drilled another hole from that same pad, 18-041, and they drilled at the same azimuth, but they just shallowed the hole up slightly. So instead of a minus 85, they were drilling a minus 55. And on this hole, probably at 259.7, which corresponds with the structure at 309 in the first hole, they hit a meter of 17.5 grams per ton. So just within a couple hundred feet of, changing your dip on your hole, you were able to go from 0.4 grams to, over half a gram per ton. On the next slide, just to highlight another instance of that. So 18052 and in black, highlighted in black, and 18-047 highlighted in red, drilled from the same pad. Similar dips. 18052 was a minus 83, and at 547 meters downhole, they hit 3.4 meters of 0.2 grams per ton. In 18047, slightly shallower hole, minus 74 degrees, drilled at a 41 azimuth instead of a 67 azimuth. And down at 563, they hit 1.1 meters at 10 grams per ton and a half a meter at 52.5 grams per ton. So you can see just by slightly changing the direction of the drill and getting another pierce point on that vein, you could go from something that has almost zero gold in it into something that has fairly substantial grade in it. If we move to the next slide, this is an example. This is from Larimer et al. This is a paper on the East Deeps discovery in 2013. And again, you see the same kind of grade variability in this slide here as well. So highlighted, circled in red here is an area right on the edge of the vein, at least as it was known in 2013. And you can see right in the middle, there's 11573 that has a circle with an X in it. That didn't have any vein in it at all. And if you move slightly north about 250 feet, 11-616 has 19 feet of 0.020 ounce per ton in it. So again, not very stellar, but they drilled holes on either side of that at 250, 300 feet apart. And the one to the east, 11-601, hit 47 feet of 0.372 ounces per ton. And the one to the west hit 17 feet of 0.954 ounces per ton. So you can see within that vein as well, just a couple hundred feet either way, you could be popping into, a zone with potentially decent grade in it.
Yeah, I think that's a great example, Gabe. So just for the viewers to be sure, so you're looking down in this view on a fairly flat-lying vein, and every circle is a pierce point on the vein. Outside the dashed line, the vein wasn't intersected, but you can see, as Gabe pointed out, hole 11-616 hit 19 feet of quartz veining, but hardly any gold in it. But very close by, the gold grade increased substantially. So just a great example. And I think that's why I like to show this next slide. We could be really close here at West Pogo, and it just takes more effort. So we've contracted to drill at least 2 more holes. The drill will arrive next week if all goes according to plan, and we'll execute that drilling over the coming month. And let's hope that we see that kind of change in gold grade from very low to hopefully spectacularly high. But we won't know till we drill those holes. Assay results likely by December, and we sure hope that we hit the big one with this round. It's been a little frustrating so far, Maurice. We've done a lot of good science, and the drilling hasn't panned out the way we'd hoped so far. But we know we've intersected a vein that's got all the right earmarks. Now it's time to vector within that vein and see if there's a place where the gold grade improves significantly. Any other comments, Gabe, or any questions, Maurice, on what we've shown so far?
Well, certainly. For the record, I just want to share that I've received a number of emails regarding, my views on the latest press release, and it really goes back to the narrative of what I was referring to earlier. I'm not too discouraged, and Mr. Graf, with his experience, he is really the name, and he's not discouraged. The experience shows that this is what he experienced at the Goodpaster, and we have the right team, we have the right strategic partners. I am not looking to sell any of my shares. I'm on record for that. So instead of me responding to every email, you have it right here on record. And my son as well, Carson, as you know, Mr. Beischer, he's a very proud shareholder. And we're looking to add to our position, just for the record.
Great. Thanks very much. So am I. Come to think of it, we've had a trading blackout on Millrock employees and executives until those results were released. But until we start drilling it again, we're able to trade, and I fully intend to add to my position in our own company.
Now, leaving the project site and onto some numbers, Mr. Beischer, walk us through the current capital structure for Millrock Resources, please.
Yeah, sure. We have roughly 130 million shares outstanding, around $1 million in our bank account. So we're not looking to have to dilute any shareholders soon. And more partnerships coming soon, so the cash flow should be good. As you know, Maurice, in accordance with our business model, we're always making new partnerships, and that allows us to spread the risk over numerous projects and keep a minority interest, but one that's still very valuable if a ore deposit is discovered. Moving on to slide 14, I point out other places where we've been busy working, the E1 target and the boundary target on the east. And we've developed some great drill targets here, and so those will be lining up for drilling in 2021. And really, Maurice, as you have heard me say before, I think this is a district scale project. It's one where multiple ore bodies could be found, and it's going to take years of exploration to do that. And so systematically, Resolution and Millrock are working our way, bringing new targets forward, ready to drill.
And Mr. Beischer, will Millrock Resources be at the New Orleans Investment Conference this year?
Yeah, we sure will. We've been there for every year for over a decade now. The organizer, Brian London, puts on a great conference. It'll be different this year, but I know that it'll be done very, very well virtually. And we are happy to participate, and we look forward to seeing you online there, Maurice.
Yes, sir. And to register for the New Orleans Investment Conference, simply just visit provenandprobable.com, and on our homepage you can register there. Mr. Beischer, any parting words for current and prospective shareholders?
Well, sure. This is a fantastic project, but we're always looking forward to the next one too. And you can anticipate some news in the near future, Maurice, on a new initiative that we've are putting forward.
Mr. Beischer, for someone listening that wants to get more information on Millrock Resources, please share the contact details.
Sure. You can easily it's best just to Google Millrock Resources, and you'll see the contact information there for Melanie Henderson of Investor Relations, and she'll be glad to speak to current and potential future shareholders and put them in direct contact with me if desired.
Mr. Graf, Mr. Beischer, thank you for joining us today on Proven and Probable. Wishing you and Millrock Resources the absolute best.
The information presented on Proven and Probable is provided for educational and informational purposes only, without any express or implied warranty of any kind, including warranties of accuracy, completeness, or fitness for any particular purpose. The information is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice, or any other advice. You should not make any financial, investment, or trading decision based on any of the information presented without first undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional broker or competent financial advisor.